All right, let's take a look at this backdrop right here. This is a picture of the temple courtyard in Jerusalem with the Levites or the priest slaughtering animals and procuring blood for the altar. And the verse here is from the Christian Bible, Hebrews chapter 8, verses 4 through 5. And it says, now if he, meaning Jesus, were on earth, he would not be a priest at all, because he's not a Levite, because there are already those who offer the gifts according to the Torah or the law, who serve as a copy or an example and shadow of heavenly things. So what does this mean? This means that the Levitical priesthood has all authority on earth when it comes to the service of God in the tabernacle or temple in Jerusalem. This is God appointed and God approved. And even the Christian Bible points to this as being true. Now with that as our backdrop, let me ask you a question. Did you know that if you slaughtered an animal in the tabernacle or the temple in Jerusalem and didn't apply its blood on the altar, there is no atonement? What do I mean by that? Well, according to Leviticus 17:11, blood for atonement is to be placed upon the altar. So the death of the animal is not enough. It's only a means to procure the blood. And according to verse 13, if you keep reading, if you're not going to use the blood for the altar, you have to let it hit the ground and cover it with earth, which renders it dirty and useless because you're not allowed to consume it or use it for any other purpose. Now, why the altar? According to Exodus 24, during the what's called a ratification ceremony for the Sinai covenant, Moses sprinkled the blood of their ratification offerings on the people and the altar while reading the terms of the covenant. Now, scholars refer to this as blood indexing, which means Israel is connected to God through the altar. That is why it must be ritually purified regularly with the life-giving blood. Notice if you read, Leviticus 17 does not teach that the blood is placed upon the person who brought the offering, only the altar itself. The person just gets credit for the purification process. Now keep in mind that the Hebrew word for atone, at its very core, simply means to cover or apply. So, to apply blood on the altar equals purification, which is equal to appeasement between God and the offerer or community. Yes, atonement leads to appeasement. That's why it's often defined as to appease, and which is true when referring to relationships, but ultimately it's an application that fixes a problem. So, knowing all this, let me reiterate my initial question with this statement. If you leave the animal hanging with its blood dripping and hitting the ground, then later just remove and bury it, it does nothing. The shedding of the blood is meaningless because there was no blood atonement. Food for thought. Shalom.